once again, a very warm welcome to all of you to the Blub World Web Talks 80th edition. In the last 79 episodes, more than 1,000 school leaders have spoken on this platform, shared their ideas, opinions, observations, perceptions on how is the K-12 education sector changing, evoluting, innovating, and in a lot of ways impacting the society all around us. It happens very less and very rare in the history of humankind that you see that the people around you, the society around you, the ecosystem around you is receptive, is ready to listen, is ready to experiment. And right now we're experiencing the same thing. If you do something new, people are empathetic towards it. They are ready to listen to it. So this is a good time to talk about ideas, talk about their execution, and talk about what you observe or the outcome or the impact it has on the society around you. Till now, we have showcased some amazing ideas that have come from all across the world. Just sharing some of those ideas to, give it a flavor to the whole interaction. There was one idea that came from a school, from a small place called Padua in West Bengal. They gave a very innovative assignment to their students. They told them to create a custom dictionary at home, in which add 5 new words every day and bring that dictionary to school once the school reopens. One school in Singapore did an amazing activity. They started a daily morning teachers' tea party. Before the school starts, they get all the teachers together on a Zoom call for a 15-minute Zoom call, and everybody must have their teacup in their hand. And what they do is they give a solution to one online teaching problem every day. So it's good content, good tea, and a good morning. That starts their day. So people have found very new ways of engaging, communicating, energizing each other, and actually, what I can say, percolation of ideas has become very easy, very smooth. So today, I welcome all of you here to share your ideas on how do you think that skilling or skills will evolve in the future. When I say about skills, there are 2 aspects to it. The first one, or the primary focus, being the student, that what will we teach the student? And second, the enabling aspect or the teacher's aspect, that what kind of skills do we need in a teacher? So today we have with us 2 special guests who bring in an experience of 2 varied fields that should come together so that our other school leaders or the people who are actually practicing it every single day for 4-5 hours through their virtual classes, and then we listen to your experiences. But to initiate the talk, to give a context to it, and to all the school leaders who are here, I invite the first guest for today, Dr. Naveen Das, who's the Dean Academics and Dean School of Business and Economics from Erasmus University, Kolkata. A very warm welcome to you, sir. The next 3 minutes are yours.
Thank you very much, Daksh. So 3 minutes, I know I'll find it very difficult, but let me just give it a try. And I know my colleagues here will forgive me if I don't cover much of the ground. But anyway, what I would say is that skills have always been a part of education right from time immemorial. In the olden golden days of the Gurukul system, a student didn't just get knowledge from the gurus, they also knew how to apply that knowledge. In fact, many of the parables and the stories that we have of the olden days, where a guru is asking a student to go and do something, cut wood. So obviously the student doesn't just know how to, or didn't just know how to cut, but also he should also apply that and demonstrate. So skill was very much a part of knowledge. There was no division between knowledge and skill. Indian mind particularly is used to stratification. We have seen that in the society. The Varna system, which was earlier so fluid, which depended entirely on the competence of people, how we have frozen it for so many millennia that even today in this society, people are getting killed for entering a temple. Okay, so unfortunately, this stratification has happened later on, but education was always liberal. It was always that knowledge, skills went hand to hand. Along with that, obviously, the wisdom of where to apply that knowledge. So fast forward today, in the schools and also in the institutions of higher education like colleges and universities, somehow there is a dichotomy between knowing and doing. What we know, we don't want to apply. And moreover, even if we want to apply, we don't know how to apply, because we have learned electrical engineering, but you ask a person to even change a tube light, it takes an onerous task. We have learned copious volumes of computer engineering, but you ask them, how do you explain the working of a CPU to your grandmother? You know, I mean, that's an acid test of knowledge. If you can explain your knowledge in simple terms to a person who is a lay person, I think that is the hallmark of knowledge and skill. But somehow, unfortunately, the dichotomy or the chasm has widened, so much so that today, all of a sudden, the government has to come up and say that, look, skilling India is a scheme where we want to skill Indians. Skill was always a part of education. Where did we go wrong? So I think in this time, this trying times, when we are thinking about doing so many things, we should get back to our olden roots and get skill into our education. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Naveen Das. So we will try to give one more session and one more time within this module itself, since it's a cozier platform today. So we'll try to give you some more time. But the way you started is very good, that let's go to where we all started as a country, as a nation, and the kind of thought process we had in our teaching learning process. When we talk of Gurukul, the knowledge and application go hand in hand. The skill and sensibility go hand in hand. If you have the wisdom to apply your knowledge, then is when your knowledge typically achieves utility, the simple factor of utility, or becoming useful for the community around you. Dichotomy between knowing and doing, this is something that has infected the education system of India very, very deeply, because the way we assess, the way we examine is based on academic content. The examination is only of the content and not of the application. So as a system, we have approved of this dichotomy, that let's keep these two things separate. But this is the time that we should actually bring them together into one single silo and not keeping them apart. And most important, can you explain your knowledge to a layman? The biggest challenge that we're facing today is this, that we are made handicapped first with the language barrier, because English is not our first language. We do not think in English. We think in either our mother tongues or Hindi or some regional language. So the first task of learning anything new is translation. So the first skill that everybody must know is translation, and then you actually go to the core subject matter of what we are trying to talk about. Thank you so much, Dr. Naveen Das, for setting the right context. Now let's add a perspective from somebody who has given a lot of judgments throughout her life. Let's have from her, what does she think on the skills for the future? A very warm welcome for Ms. Jyotsna Yagnik, who's the Pro Vice Chancellor and Dean School of Law and Justice at Adams University, Kolkata. She has been a former judge with the Gujarat High Court. So let's have her perspective on how would skills evolve in the future.
I will take up the sting where my learned brother Naveen Das has left. So I was just thinking when you said about the subject, that the biggest skill we require in the perspective in which we live today is to learn respecting the older things and embracing the new things. Today, there is no bridge between old and new. So things goes in river and nobody is able to swim. Old people, I mean old in the sense, old thinking, not age-wise, they think that they are right. New people think that they are right. We used to call it generation gap. But in my understanding, this is far, far, far beyond generation gap. In generation gap, the first generation has something similar with the next generation. Most of the things were not similar, but something. So that is the first need, I believe, that even if I believe that whatever my 90 years granny does may not be acceptable to me or may not be, but I must have courtesy to respect whatever her beliefs are. And then I should have skill to propagate, to profess the faith or the ideology I have in a new system. And that is the skill of building a bridge. That is the most important thing required, because in today's society, if we see, relationship is casualty. Only before 2 days, my niece, when she took out her 5 years old daughter after 4 months, she has taken out the daughter. And she was just telling me that today, for the first time, I saw genuine smile on her face, because she was cut off from all the friends and everyone. Where we went, there were some children of her age, and the way in which she was rejoicing was very unique thing. So we must accept that these two are two different things, but both of it is respectable, both of it is likable one, both of it is ponderable one. Everything is right in its own place. So one should not be condemned something which one does not believe, or one does not profess, or one does not implement or canvas. We have to have accept somebody's viewpoint. That has gone. And I think for healthy democracy, that is something sine qua non, that you must be ready to listen to others, trying to understand others' viewpoint. And for that, I think a big skill is required. And the person like me and Navinda sir and all others over here, we all, those who are concerned and connected with education, we have to inject something in our education system whereby we can achieve this. That's what my humble belief is. Thank you for the concern.
Thank you so much, Jyotsna ma'am. To learn while respecting what's old and trying to move towards the new, because this is an underlying paradox of education that you as a generation have learned from an earlier generation and are going to teach the next one. So आप दो generations का gap mandatorily अपने students तक पहुंचाएंगे, but how to actually mold it in a way or make it receptive, acceptable, conducive to your students is something that we must teach them. अगर हम हमारे कंटेंट को ही चेंज करते रहेंगे कि बच्चे के लिए रिसेप्टिव हो जाए, जो कि अभी हो रहा है. When we are trying to talk about personalized learning for every student, we are not trying to give him a talent of being receptive. Rather, we are accepting what he has and trying to build things around that, which is also a good perspective, but we must know that he should also build a tolerance for consumption, for content, for people, for atmosphere, for society. Let's respect what people believe and try to find a midway path in every approach of teaching. So thank you so much, Jyotsna ma'am, for adding this perspective, because this is what talks about the utopian dream of value education. This is where value education comes in, or life skills comes in, that you actually understand the daily interactions and you're able to create a society which is much more contributive. So thank you so much, ma'am. Let's now listen it from the real practitioners who are fighting it every day in their online classes with a lot of students, because there's one known fact that the normal class size of a school has quadrupled, because every single student is at least sitting with a mom and a dad, some brother being there or some dada dadi being there. So now you're not just teaching the student. The school has become transparent and a lot of people are questioning, and everything that you do is subject to scrutiny. So let's have their perspectives on what do they think will be the skills of the future. Let's first hear it from Ms. Seema Sapru, Principal, the Heritage School, Kolkata, West Bengal. Seema ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute your audio.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So it's wonderful to be here, because I thought, for quite some time when I was hearing about Blub World, and I was wondering what exactly do they do. So let me not waste my time, because I have only 3 minutes, and let me start off. So skills for the future we're talking about. So we live in VUCA world. Let's accept it. This is VUCA, VUCA world, where we say V is volatile, U is uncertain, C is for complex, and A for ambiguous. And so there are lots of skills that we're going to be talking about. One, which is the most important, I say, is being future ready. So this is one skill which I talk about, being future ready. And how do we achieve that? There are 3 things for that. The first one is to be prepared for the unknown. That's it. I feel everybody has to be ready. And let me tell you that this pandemic has taught us that no textbook all our lives has taught us, and which is crisis management. So crisis management is something that we need to teach our children, to prepare for the unknown, and not to feel disheartened just because they don't get what they want. And whatever has been planned, it's good to plan, but in case the planning doesn't materialize, it doesn't come to fruition, then they shouldn't be, most of the children these days, they feel very, very depressed for small little things. So they're not used to listening to a no, or anything that's not as per their liking. So anyway, so that's what I'm talking about. Prepare for the unknown. That's one thing. So we are taking psychological counseling for parents, teachers, and students. We're talking about assertiveness, and we are also talking about, respecting parents and understanding their work, their hard-earned money, and valuing it. So that's what we're doing, preparing for the unknown, first thing. Second is adapt to continuous change. Adapting to, because I realize one thing, that there's something unknown that happens. We are prepared, but then we somehow can't adapt to it. And if we can't adapt to it, we'll be in deep trouble. So we might as well do that, and we have to know that AI, which is artificial intelligence, is knocking at the door. So be prepared to live with robots helping you with mundane chores. Innovative thinking and creativity, I'm hoping that will still remain under the human domain. And what we have done is, we've done fit heritage classes where we are trying to find out every day what are the children doing. They are quickly, whatever the number of steps they're taking, or the mass PT classes that we are doing in our classes with the sports teachers, they're quickly taking videos of that and posting it. That's one thing. Life skill classes we're doing career classes. And I would like to immediately tell you, everybody, please read these two books, The Industries of the Future by Alec Ross and To Be a Machine by Mark O'Connell. These are two wonderful books. Please read them. Now, the third and the final thing is discover human virtues. So I've spoken about three things. Being future ready is the main point. Prepare for the unknown, adapt to continuous change, and third is discover human virtues. So we have to talk about integrity, being honest, being truthful, being compassionate, loving people, being emotional. And one thing, have I finished 2.5 minutes? 3 minutes are over.
Yeah.
3 minutes are over.
Yeah, we'll come back to you.
Okay, great. No, I'm done. Thank you.
So thank you, Seema ma'am. To summarize, you said about the VUCA world being future ready, be prepared for the unknown. Crisis management, because we can feel that crisis has now become a daily, everyday part of life that we are facing every single day. And not to get disheartened easily, this is something that's happening across the world with students, because there was a lot of casual learning that used to happen in the school. While onboarding the bus, getting off it, having your lunches, talking to students, that casual learning has stopped. And when it has stopped, the sportsmanship, the team spirit, all those things that we learned have gone for a toss. So that's where this issue actually becomes big. Students not ready to listen to a no. And psychological counseling for all the stakeholders involved. Adapt to continuous change. Be prepared to live with robots. And you told about two amazing books that you named. One of them I could write, Industries of Future. The second one I could not. And more importantly, discovering the human virtue. This is very important to understand at this point, that whatever we learn, it now has to be tested on a new scale. And that new scale is, if technology can do it, don't teach it. If technology cannot do it, only then teach it. Because that's something that will have value for that student throughout his life. Whether it may be his employability, whether it may be his wellness, whether it may be his happiness. So thank you so much, ma'am. Let's listen to the next speaker for today, Mr. John Andrew Begul, Principal, South City International School, Kolkata, West Bengal. You'll have to unmute yourself, sir.
Let me unmute. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with friends like Seema Sapru and meeting new people out here. So thank you, Mr. Daksh Gaur, for getting us on the team. I thought Seema ma'am will cover all the points and will be left with nothing. Okay. So what she spoke is very relevant, and I totally agree. In addition to that, and in today's scenario, what we strongly believe is children should develop a sense of empathy. Empathy is lacking, I think, both in teachers and students. When you started and you introduced what skills do we need in teachers and students, I've been noticing that some teachers feel that when you spoke about people coming into classroom, parents being there, we are entering their homes. We are intruders into their homes. This empathy should be there. This sense of, I am coming to you as a guest, please welcome me, and we have to be sensitized to the situation. That's just one aspect. I feel with all the talk that we are doing of artificial intelligence, we also need to bring in coding. All of us know that coding is going to be very important. So when we speak about skills, I'm sure that all of us are going to speak about different aspects, but hard skills, soft skills, and the soft skills being more important. And as you rightly pointed out, there are life skills which are picked up, but the emotional and social intelligence which Seema ma'am was briefly covering is where we try and work with the child. And now, of course, we are working with parents and teachers, and every educator will tell you that now we have a threefold effect, because everyone is getting frustrated. The lockdown effect, the work from home is quite intensive and frustrating. So we have to create a very good emotional background. We have to see that our kids and teachers are emotionally strong. And then the no, when we say accept a no, we have also to make our adults, like teachers, understand that no means no. Because that's another area where they have to learn that you can't get whatever you want at the drop of a hat. Basically, I feel that thinking out of the box, problem solving, and a more practical approach would be a much better way of going forward. We are looking at national curriculum framework, and Seema ma'am has prepared a big list, which maybe she could speak later. But the national curriculum framework is looking at application of knowledge. Earlier speakers have spoken of how our content is not modified to the environment. We learn something, we practice something else. So the judgment making and decision making, these are basic areas which children should be able to understand. Judgment, whether they're making the right judgment, what are the reasons for this judgment, what is the analysis, and how to make, because we see that parents are tiger parents, always hovering around, or helicopter parents, and they plan everything for their child. So with this pandemic, I hope society realizes that everything cannot be planned out. And yes, crisis management or what should be done, expect the unexpected. My motto in school, I tell the children while I teach biology or on the stage, expect the unexpected. So with that, I end that I feel train the children, train people to expect the unexpected. We don't know what's going to happen. Be prepared. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you so much, John, sir. To summarize, sense of empathy, school is the intruder and it typically asks for a lot of hospitality now. And I think even the parents are ready for it. Coding going to be a very important skill in the coming times, because at the end of the day, we need to understand that how would we tame technology? As of now, it's taming us by creating a lot of data around us, and we are trying to learn big data. So soft skills being more important, because human connection, and that's where a technology typically goes for a toss. Because when we talk of that speaker device by either an Amazon or by a Google Home or anybody, that's where it lacks, that it cannot have human skills. They're trying for it, and we hope they never have it. And emotional and social intelligence, and threefold effect on everyone. The complete ecosystem is impacted, the society is impacted, and we are able to see that frustration coming up on people. Because when the economy goes down, it's not just the money that goes away. There's a lot of satisfaction, there's a lot of wellness, there's a lot of happiness that goes away. And trying to restore that is a big, big challenge. Problem solving attitude, more practical approach, application of knowledge. Are you able to do the right judgments? So one of the schools in Sundarbans in Odisha started a very nice activity just to enhance the wisdom of children. They told them to create a wisdom diary at home, that create a list of what good did you do in the whole day and what bad did you do in the whole day. And once you get that diary back, that diary will be an assessment of how much did you learn. Where does your value education knowledge or your wisdom knowledge stand? And helicopter parents, this is a new term that has been floating everywhere, because now the school is absolutely transparent and the parent is everywhere. And as a school, as an institution which is supposed to decipher knowledge, we do not have one department, which is CRM, customer relationship management. But now we need that, because since the customer is everywhere. And the more important part, as of now, a school was handling consumers. The customer had an interaction just in a PTM. But right now, the customer and consumer, everybody is there on the same call, and we have to handle them every single day, at least for 4 or 5 hours. So that's a new thing for the ecosystem that has come in. And everything cannot be planned. Making things humanized again. We made the society too robotic. We made it too much managed. So this is the time that we need to tell them letting go of things and being ready of change and accepting that change. So thank you so much, John, sir. Let's now listen to the next speaker for today, Dr. Deepashri Majumdar, Headmistress, Barlow Girls High School, Malda, West Bengal. Deepashri ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. A very warm welcome.
Here today, I'd like to discuss some points on skill for the students and skill for the teacher. Now let us see what is skill in education. I think it is critical thinking, problem solving, reasoning, analysis, interpretation, synthesizing information, questioning, curiosity, imagination, etc. We gain knowledge, skill, and experience to increase our confidence. Actually, students need some different type of skill for their future. Critical thinking as well as problem solving, adaptability, initiative, oral and written communication, analyzing the information, curiosity and imagination. Besides this, time management and digital skills is also needed. Students have to increase good study habits also. For higher studies, students need computer skills such as analytical skill, presentation skills, etc. and also project management. Students need different type of soft skills for their future, like emotional intelligence, motivational skill, ability to work under pressure, and self-confidence. And today's world is being shaped by rapid technological changes. Children are likely to enter a job market which are totally unknown to their parents and others. To equipping children for this new world will remain teachers to have a mixed skill that have always been to mark up a good teacher. Now I am discussing about some skills future teachers will need. Strong subject knowledge. I think it is very essential for teachers to teach a student to develop themselves to learn facts and learn how to use them. Second one, being a facilitator. Facilitating learning is not only important to encourage young people to be lifelong learners. Strong social skills. Top 3 skills that employees wanted are the ability to work in a team structure, the ability to make discussion and to solve problems, and the ability to communicate verbally with people inside and outside organization. And to develop the desired traits and skills, teachers are going to use to become more focused on learning outside the school. Data analysis. Teachers will need to use data analysis to spot students having difficulties and help them to achieve their potential. I've collected some points and tried my best to give a small concept about future skills. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deepashri ma'am. Skills in education, initiative, communication skills, curiosity, time management, analytical skills, project management, which is again very important because a बहुत सारी learning जो है that has to happen in a flip mode where the student has to teach the teacher. And project management, time management. On this, I want to quote an example from Springdale School in Guwahati in Assam. They did a very amazing activity, which we told them to create an observation paper around it. They told their students to create a balance sheet of time. They told students to consider time as currency and told them to fill a balance sheet every evening, that what amount of it was investment, what amount of it was expenditure, what amount of it was expense, what are your reserves, and how did you utilize your time. So for managing time, that's a very amazing activity, that telling them to create a balance sheet of time. This has been done by Springdale School in Guwahati in Assam. Working under pressure, a job market which is absolutely unknown, 2/3 of the jobs won't be there. All the redundant jobs which created the majority chunk of jobs won't exist anymore because redundancy will be taken over by technology. So we need to prepare students for a multi-career life. There won't be a single career life anymore for students because the way and the pace at which the ecosystem changes, the jobs will change at even a much more faster pace. Strong subject for teachers, strong subject knowledge and working in teams. As teachers, we have to now be ready to be more collaborative and ready to accept that we don't know everything. The bossy image of a teacher or the disciplinarian image of a teacher won't work anymore. The lecture mode of teaching won't work anymore. We would need the discussion mode to come in. And let's talk to students as peers and not as your subordinates. So thank you so much, ma'am. Let's now listen to the next speaker for today, Mr. Mohammad Shahjahan, Vice Principal, Jibreel International School, Kolkata, West Bengal. Sir, over to you for the next 3 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. And first of all, I'm humbled to be a part of such a panel, whether we have the likes of Dr. Naveen there, Dr. Das, Mrs. Seema Sapro is there, and I have few attendees. I can see one of my mentor, Mrs. Raha is there as well. It's a wonderful evening that I'm having. And I am thankful to Mr. Gaur for giving me an opportunity a little later where I am a learner more than a teacher. So I have learned a lot from what the panelists have spoken, and very rightly so. So I'll continue from where Mrs. Sapru has left, Dr. John has left. I'll just continue from there. The fact that just because we must be sheltered in a place doesn't mean that the fun and learning has to end. This one single mantra I had used to communicate to my teachers while they were planning for academics to go online, to go live with their students. And that fun and learning together has been an age-old tradition. I wonder, and I do not exactly know when was this lost, that today Dr. Das had to talk about knowing and the dichotomy between knowing and doing. Yes, that one skill that the teacher needs to do today is knowing, planning something so that the students may know, and accommodating activities in the plan so that they may know the thing and apply it. Where are they going to do such a thing? My age-old or the age-old tradition of asking the children to go back to the textbook and do the question answers, fill in the blanks and answer in brief and answer in short, that has to end now, where we need to give them activity, project-based work, research-based work to students so that they are able to exactly experience what they are going to do with what they have come to know. That's one skill for the teachers. Don't have time, so I'll go back to the students now. We are preparing our students for man and machine interface, no doubt. And all the schools are doing a wonderful job in this regard. But let us not forget that we are still teaching human beings, and we are in an attempt to make human beings, not machines. Hence, we need to prepare our students for man and man interface, which accommodates all that has been said by the panelists so far. We need to teach them how to collaborate. We need to teach them the spirit of working together. We need to teach them the skill of negotiating. Yet again, all these skills that we are talking about cannot be a stand-alone event, a stand-alone subject wherein we need to allot separate space and separate time for it. It needs to be blended within the learning. A maths teacher needs to humanize to teach these aspects. A chemistry teacher needs to humanize his lesson plan to teach all these aspects. An English teacher all the more can accommodate everything to make the child prepared for a man-man interface. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mohammed sir. To again summarize, a shelter cannot limit enjoyment and learning together. Accommodation of activities in daily things so that there's a lot of application that's happening within the class, and the student is actually able to use the subjects he's learning in a multidisciplinary approach and not in separate silos of different periods that, yes, this is the history period and that's where history ends with the bell ringing. It has to be an interconnection that goes on in all the classes. And we have to build a thinking process and a thought process and a mentality shift that you're not learning for sustaining a life. You have a life that should be filled with learning. So it should be something where you become a learner and an active learner and for your life. Students ready to prepare for a man and machine combo that's already taking place. Just to give you an example, there's an organization called Group M, which owns or typically trades 80% of the world's media space in every country across the globe. They create something that's called the marketing user DNA, which gets created from all the content and all the data you as humans and consumers generate on any e-shopping website. And that's where the judgment of your choice starts happening by artificial intelligence. So we are already in a world where there's a big man-machine combo already working, and we need to get more deeper into it so that learning of this aspect of life also becomes a part. Human factor to be remembered, and nothing can be isolated now. Everything is a big same mixed story. So when we need to teach a mixed story, we need to understand how do we create the climax of it? How do we create the sense of it? How do we create the relevance of it? Before we move on to the next leg of the discussion, in the next leg, it's an open floor to all of you for the next 5-10 minutes, when you can add your perspectives. If something was left, if you want to discuss something, you can actually put out that topic. Before we actually go into that leg, I just want to establish a simple fact: the importance of stories. And why does storytelling become very critical now in a time that we are in, when we are doing such disconnected teaching? Because we as humans has a psychological barrier, what we say, which is called story bias. We as humans are, we always want to create relationship. Yes, this was the cause, this is the effect of it. And out of that cause and effect, we create understanding trends. And then is when the learning finally happens, when we are able to create a trend onto something, and then that's when learning happens. So मैं आपको एक छोटा सा स्टोरी सुनाऊंगा with all the elements of a story. And ऐसा कहा जाता है, ये उर्दू लिटरेचर में स्टोरी पढ़ाई जाती है, और ऐसा कहा जाता है दुनिया का सबसे छोटा अफसाना है, दुनिया का सबसे छोटी स्टोरी है. It's part of Urdu literature studies in most of the universities across the world even. कि इसमें राम और श्याम एक ट्रेन में बैठे हैं, वो ट्रेन चल रही है. राम जो है वो श्याम से पूछता है कि क्या तुम भूतों में विश्वास करते हो? श्याम कहता है नहीं, और राम गायब हो जाता है. तो ये दुनिया का सबसे छोटा अफसाना है, जिसके अंदर एक सिचुएशन है, जिसमें कैरेक्टर्स हैं, जिसमें डायलॉग है, एंड एक अनएक्सपेक्टेड क्लाइमैक्स है. एंड ऑल दीज फैक्टर्स, what do they create? They create engagement. That's what makes you listen. Just some days back, we had a behavioral scientist on this very platform, Colonel Sudeep Mukherjee. He shared a very recent report on that when a student is looking at a screen like this, he has an attention span of only 8 seconds. On every 9th second, he has started daydreaming. So what kind of content do you need? आप जब एक स्क्रीन पर देख रहे हैं, तो आप एक सेलिब्रिटी को देखने के आदत में बंधे हुए हैं. And when a student looks onto it and finds a teacher on the screen, he compares the teacher with the celebrity. So are we able to establish the connection? So let's talk in the next leg on how do you keep your students engaged in the virtual world. So now the floor is open, and anyone from you can take the lead now. Please, Naveenji, please.
Actually, Daksh, as a teacher, I think it is a tall order, boss. I mean, let us confess that all along, teachers or teaching job gave us some respite, that we had time to get into our own books. We had time for a family life. We had time to meet around with friends and society. Now, obviously, this is not because of the pandemic alone, but in general, I know my earlier learned speakers she was hinting at that in the process of making ourselves acceptable to the students, and you use the word customers, which personally I'm not very comfortable with, by making ourselves acceptable to the students as customers, somewhere we have dumbed down education. We have dumbed down education to the extent that now we think that it is my job as a teacher to engage the attention of the students for whatever it might be. I think this change, while ma'am talked about the VUCA world and the change all around, but this change in my mind is not the right change. Engagement should be in also the respect that the student brings onto the table for the subject. The subject is supreme. And if the student don't respect that subject, if the student thinks that it is the job of the teacher to make it interesting, whether by storytelling or by jumping on the floor or by dancing on the table. In fact, jokingly, maybe on jest, I'm saying this, but some teachers say that, boss, now it is only left to us that we now have to go and be a magician in the class. You are talking about 8 seconds. Even in physical class, research says that it is just about 20 to 25 seconds, and the teacher starts looking out of the window. So what does it mean? That after every 25 seconds, I have to crack a joke, and I'm teaching, say, philosophy. I'm teaching a grave subjects like, say, Euclidean geometry. So yes, content has to be engaging, content has to be interesting, but somewhere we have to also accept that that teachers are also human beings. They are trained to do certain things. They are not trained to do everything. And just, ma'am, Sapru ma'am, just 1 minute, I'll finish. You know, my general philosophy about learning and teaching over the years, I see that with each 10 to 15 years span, what we consider to be knowledge becomes a part of skill. And I will refer here to the stratification in my mind that, well, I don't have to stretch myself for learning the skills. Those are for basically people who are manual people, laborers, manual workers. I'm a thinking person. So the knowledge becomes skill. Another generation, the knowledge of that generation becomes skill. So in the days to come, and I'll take words from our learned colleague, Mr. John, that, you know, then where do we end? Somewhere, if today's knowledge becomes skill and tomorrow's knowledge becomes skill of tomorrow, so ultimately every knowledge we have to now get on to creating new knowledge, creating new skill on a daily basis, which becomes a tough task. Somewhere I think as teachers, what we have to do is we have to accept that teaching students how to learn or teaching them how to learn, I think our job is done. The rest of the knowledge and skill components can be given to them with life. Someone was talking about learning from life around, learning from the world. Why don't we learn something from the sky, from birds, from trees? And we have done that. Traditionally, we have done that. So why is it that the entire onus is on the teachers? So my submission to you is, to sum up, that the expectation of the teachers to be responsible even for engagement is stretching it beyond the content. As teachers, we have to remain as thought leaders and not performers on stage. I know I'm being provocative. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Naveen ji. Over to Seema ma'am, please.
Okay, so sir, what you're saying is absolutely right, 100% correct. But sir, you're talking about your level, because at the time when children reach your college, at that point of time, sir, they actually should be interested in the subject that they've taken. They better be interested because they are their chosen subjects. But in pre-primary and primary classes, teachers have to actually dance. They have to actually dance to engage them because they only understand. See, because I've been teaching only grades 11 and 12. So initially,
absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely. Please don't take my words literally.
No, not at all, sir. I respect you. What you've said is absolutely right, sir. Because we are serious. We are actually thinkers as far as I teach chemistry to 11s and 12s. So I understand what you're saying. Because initially, I would find it very difficult to understand the teachers were going there and they were only talking about dancing and singing. And so I said, at the end of the day, what are they teaching? A for apple, B for baby. What else can they teach? But then when you go deep inside, then you realize that whatever the outcome of their learning has been for so many years, it starts from there. And it is so difficult to make a child hold a pencil, to make a child frame a sentence, of course, later on. So these are things which are very, very difficult initially. And then when they move up to primary school and then middle school, so the dancing becomes a little less, acting, role play becomes a little less, and content becomes more important. So absolutely, by the time they reach your level, by then they better be engaged and they better listen to what the teachers are saying. I don't think at that age it's a teacher's job to engage, but initially, yes, teachers have to engage them.
Absolutely, ma'am. I was actually referring to the attention span of
Please.
students. And obviously, I wish India had all the teachers like you, ma'am. I still remember as a child, I'm sorry, Daksh, I'm taking more time, I know. As a child, when I went to my KG class, first day, I still remember. And this is a storytelling, Daksh. You gave us a story. Though I would have loved the two characters to be Rahim and Shamim. So I went to my KG class, and the first class, obviously, my father had already gone after wiping my tears. I still remember there were two of us who went from the same locality, and my father went on two hands holding two of us, deposited us to the school. I use the word deposit. And then after he went back, after our crying was over, I went to Miss Walker's class, and she took us on her lap, took me on her lap. I still remember, and I have goosebumps when I say this. And then she took us to the class of Miss Isa Brackran, who played Baba Black Sheep or something like that on the huge grandfather piano, the black piano. And we all stood there by her, at her back, and raised our hands like here and there, hickory dickory dock, etc. I still remember, and that I still quote to my class that is engagement. I understand that engagement for different age groups are different, but I wish the school and the high school did our jobs better, that all of us as partners in this man-making or life-giving education would have become partners in arms. We are all in the same boat. You are handling the most crucial age, whereas we in the university are handling slightly aged or evolved students. But unless the foundation is made stronger, we would not be getting. That's why my comment was, wish every teacher were Madam Sapru like you. Thank you very much, ma'am. Just a clarification. And obviously, I provoked that.
Let us accept the diversity that we have in the panel. So when Professor Das was basically saying that, I could relate that he was basically talking about those people who pass out from school and then with colleges and universities. And ma'am has very rightly pointed that out, that our task, not that to segregate whose work is, really more challenging, but at this point of time, this online mode of education, why we are in this panel today and we are discussing and why we are talking about the skills is because we have gone live. We've gone online now. From the brick and mortar system, we have gone on to the use of technology and the various video conferencing platforms that different schools are using. And that's the reason why we are here today discussing about the skills. And as I said, that, these students, we might be discussing this and we might be placed suitably and almost luxuriously, if I can say that with a safe conscience, in an urban, location. But talk about the millions of people in the rural areas who are still not very much familiar with the online mode of education. And that too at this level of primary, pre-primary and the middle school, they are suffering the most. And if in case we have got some certain percentage, the statistics and the data are known, I think the houses, the panel is so very well informed that I don't need to bring in that data here. But the fact is that if those children are in the restricted domains of the home, of their home, we just cannot, mute them. We just cannot ask them to be silent listeners. We need to engage them. And that's the reason I said we need to have a lesson plan that is more engaging than it was earlier. So it is teachers basically developing their skills so that they are passed on to the students in a way most desired. And that's the reason why teachers whose fingers would tremble at the keys of the computer and the laptop are now making very engaging PPTs. I can tell you with a safe conscience that I have experience, I've been experienced from my teachers of pre-primary and primary. It's not only about playing a small little video somewhere or running a recorded audio somewhere. It's not that. It's about engagement. And I am rightly pointed, I won't take much time, rightly reminded of what Maya Angelou said once, that, you know, people might forget what you teach. These students will forget what you have taught them, but they will never forget how you made them feel. The time we are in right now, it is more essential to make them feel, as sir was rightly saying, we are intruders in their house, so we need to make them feel better. That's it.
Thank you so much, Mohammadji. And a very important fact that we all must realize with the kind of content that you already gave in, if you all try to go back to your childhood, your favorite subject was not selected on the basis of the content of that subject. It got selected because of the teacher that taught you. Because in marketing and business, if you talk, there's a simple idea that people buy from people. And it's the same way it happens in teaching, that people get taught from people. So at the end of the day, it's the person who's behind that subject that changes the reality. So it's time to conclude. I would request if anybody wants to give any concluding statements, you can take the next 1 or 2 minutes. Otherwise, we must go towards the conclusion of the call. Jyotsna ma'am wants to say something.
Only 1 minute I will take. I wanted to say, student may not be consumer. It is slightly commercial term. But may not be customer. It's a commercial term. But they are certainly become consumer. They are very conscious, very aware that they are taking services from us, and they are paying for that services. That attitude which was there, like a disciple sense, or that a kind of a sense that where they were putting us on a higher pedestal, that has evaporated. And today, undoubtedly, I tell you, out of 199 students is conscious that their parents have purchased their services of us. So at least their consciousness of they being consumer is very much there. That's what my take.
Absolutely, Jyotsna ma'am. I also try not to ever use these terms when we talk of education. But the way education is being visualized now, the way it's being operated now, it's very sad to say, but that's the reality, that it has become the most regulated business in India. ये इकलौता ऐसा बिजनेस है in the whole country जिसका revenue end भी regulated है, जिसका expenditure end भी regulated है, इसकी accounting भी regulated है, क्योंकि if you go into a proper business, वहाँ आपका revenue regulate नहीं होता, वो आपकी choice है, पर यहाँ वो सारी चीजें regulated हैं. And what we think that we should finally try to again create that high moral ground. किस तरीके से we don't know, but yes, this is something that we have to find, because only then you can actually inspire. क्योंकि अब पढ़ाने से तो काम नहीं हो पाएगा. That's where the story actually gets stuck. So it's time to conclude the call. I hope you enjoyed the last 20, 30 minutes, 60 minutes that you spent with Blubbword. To conclude, let me just share a small story with you. And this story comes from a teenager again. So she's a lady who's homeschooled, never went to a school, self-taught, has been very inventive, and basically is a painter, lives in Melbourne, Australia. She started her professional painting career at the age of 9. Had her first solo sold-out show at the age of 2. Exhibited a solo painting show which was a complete sellout on one of the most respected museums or art galleries of Europe. Also did a very big grand sold-out show in the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Russia. She right now is just 13 years old and earns in millions. And that's the cover story of Blubbword this month. And that lady is Elita Andre. And that's what we simply do. Trying to find inspiration that makes you do more, that makes you try more. Because education now needs a new definition on this part, that you're not delivering content. You cannot teach anymore. You'll have to inspire, because there's a big disconnect between you and the learner. So let's try to bridge it up. Let's try to patch it up. And I think you've already done it quite successfully. Again, thank you so much for being a part of the Blubbword Vect Talks 80th edition. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, you can open your audio, say a big yes, and thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you very
Yes,
Thank you so
definitely.
much. It was
Thank
really,
you.
really wonderful.
Yes.
Really, really wonderful. And let me tell you, Mr. Gaur, you are a wonderful storyteller. And that's one thing that we all need to learn. At least I need to pass it on to all my teachers. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, people.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.